Hey, everybody, and welcome to Authentic Points of View podcast. I am Danielle, and this is
McKenna.
Speak Up, McKenna.
McKenna.
Oh, now she's bold. So, we are so excited about today's guest. I am very excited because this is the third time that I have had the pleasure of interviewing him. And he jumped in last minute because our guest that was scheduled today had to reschedule and told us yesterday, which was nice of her to tell us ahead of time. So I appreciate that. So he was the first person, honestly, not kidding, that I thought of that I really wanted to get on because he adds so much value to the show. He's an amazing man, dad, coach, all the things. So Shane Thrapp is a certified ADHD entrepreneur and parenting coach and the founder of Creating Order from Chaos, a coaching and consulting business that empowers ADHD entrepreneurs and parents to harness their strengths and build fulfilling, sustaining lives.
Welcome to the show, Shane.
There we go. Hey.
Hey, there it is. Hey.
Younger folks got to help us with our technology. Heck yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know. I'm trying to get the hang of it. There's all these buttons and stuff to push. I'm like, wait. Okay. All right. So,
When did you get diagnosed with ADHD?
Oh man, right into it. I got diagnosed when I was like 34 or 35, but I knew like when I was 30. Like that's when my oldest son I got a note from the teacher and they were like, "We think your son has ADHD or autism." And I'm like, "Which one is it?" And they're like, "We don't know, but we think your son has it." And his mother just wasn't really about mental health, so kind of fell on me to do it. And I started studying about it. Started seeing a lot of similarities with my own personal life, both ADHD and autism, but I didn't know about the connection between the two of them at the time. And then, but it took a long time for me to actually get diagnosed because a lot of people were like, the first doctor I went to, she outright told me, adults don't have ADHD. You grow out of it. It's a childhood disorder. And I'm like, oh, well, you're a doctor, so you should know. But eventually I found a doctor who actually decided to test me, and once they tested me, we were off to the races.
yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, you're like right into it. You're right. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I think those are great.
That's how ADHD conversations go. We just jump into stuff. Y'all get ready for this mess.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a ride and a fun one. So here's the thing: people used to tell me, "I don't know what's in your mind. You cannot start the conversation in the middle of the sentence. Like, why are you doing that?" So now I'm trying to get more to the point. To like, okay, let me ask us. Like I used to always say, I have a question when I ask the question. They're like, ask the question. But I always had to announce that there was a question. So I do have a question. No, I'm just joking. But I think also, the reason why I wanted to ask that is because I know the answer to the question because I've spoke with you a few times. And I think it's important because in my instance, my son is a different gender than me, and his ADHD was on 4,000%, meaning he never sat down. He rocked when he was 2 months old. He rocked back and forth. He still does at 21. He just never stopped. And so when I looked back and I spoke with you, and I was like, oh, like I remember us joking. We had a great time, and we're going to talk about different types of ADHD and all this stuff. But when we were talking about that last time, I was like, oh, snap. But I didn't realize that this is going to sound goofy, that girls and boys were different when it came to ADHD. I know they're different gender-wise, y'all, but I didn't that honestly, the symptoms, I'm glad that you love that one. Okay, but yeah, I didn't know that the symptoms and stuff are different or how they respond and all that thing. I had no clue. But how did you navigate learning that your son has ADHD, autism, or whatever, and trying to help him, and then learning that you had it at the same time? How did you navigate that journey?
Honestly, it just helped me adjust my expectations, right? I mean, the thing about ADHD and autism is, these are neurodevelopmental conditions, right? They affect how our brains process the world and process information and the senses and the emotions and things of that nature. And so a lot of it was just educating myself to understand how to recognize where my son was at and how to meet him there. And eventually my daughter and now my 5-year-old twins, the same thing, right? Adjusting my expectations from what I read about in What to Expect When You're Expecting, or any of these parenting books that are built around neurotypicality and like your standard average progress that a child makes, and realizing that a lot of that is, well, honestly, BS, right? Because they're only able to give you generalizations of where a child is going to be at any given age, but it doesn't take into consideration things like dyslexia, ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, OCD, all of these different anxieties and stuff like that that can build up. It doesn't take into consideration environmental issues, trauma issues, all of these different things. Historically speaking, we know that ADHD and autism are hereditary and have genetic components. So it took a lot of time for me to just learn about it. And that's what I did. And now that we know, 15 years later, that's what parents should be doing, right? Is learning everything they can about the issue that their child deals with and adjusting their expectations. And that's what I learned. And I learned to adjust my expectations, meet him where he was, celebrate his wins, work on his strengths, and develop the skills and the tricks that he needed to counter his weaknesses and struggles that he had to then move forward.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. And you're right. We should be doing that as parents. And I love that you said that, there is no cookie cutter. Like, it doesn't take into accountability the lifestyle and all the other things that goes on. And that my friend's daughter was just born with Down syndrome. So that book doesn't talk about, it doesn't talk about a child with a disability, or like you said, a neurodivergent child, or my brother had very severe OCD. And since we talked last, I wrote a book in honor of my brother's, in honor of my brother. So it's just, it doesn't talk about those things. So go ahead, McKenna. What?
What are some different types of ADHD?
So different types of ADHD. So ADHD comes in presentations. And the presentations are inattentive, hyperactive, and combined. Hyperactive is your general stereotype of ADHD, the child bouncing all off the walls and everything like that. Inattentive is kind of the daydreamer, the forgetful, things of that nature, and they're very in their minds. And the easy way to think about this is inattentive is internal hyperactivity, and hyperactive is external hyperactivity. And so those are the two different presentations. And I say presentations because what we have come to learn and understand is ADHD is a spectrum issue. There are spectrums of extremities when children are affected by it in different ways. Some children are going to have really severe executive function issues, which is like doing the things and measuring time and remembering stuff. Some children are going to have issues with hyperactivity, which is or the impulsivity. They're going to just do the thing immediately without thinking about it. And the the other aspect is the emotional dysregulation. Some children deal with emotional dysregulation, some children don't. Or the emotional dysregulation presents in different ways. Some children are super anxious, some children are super excited, some children are super happy, some children are super angry. And that's one of the things that I had to learn was that when you're dealing with presentations, how you present at the time of diagnosis is what the doctor gives you. However, how your ADHD presents is going to change depending on your environment, your traumas, your age, and what you're dealing with. And we see that with gender as well. A lot of girls deal with, born female, deal with inattentive ADHD, and a lot of boys happen to deal with a lot of hyperactivity. That's a generalization, though. It's, boys can have inattentive. I have inattentive ADHD, and it does make me very introverted. And my autism also kind of combines with that to kind of make me have a lot of social issues. And I have to kind of learn how to deal with that. And that's me having to learn about my specific presentations and things of that nature. But, just because you are diagnosed with inattentive ADHD doesn't mean you're not going to have impulsivity issues and hyperactive times. And just like if you're diagnosed hyperactive doesn't mean you're not going to daydream and be off in Wonderland. It just depends on where you're at and what kind of presentations you're having at the time.
So you're so awesome, by the way. I love how you explain things. And I want to say that I am so, so, so proud of you. And you just rock. Like, you're so intelligent. The fact that you said that you were introverted, never would have guessed. I don't know if we talked about that before because, like, you and I, we just, we have fun. So to be able to overcome that, we're going to talk about your coaching business and all this stuff. And you run a group. I mean, come on, like, how awesome are you? And we're going to talk about those things more in detail. But the fact that you're able to do that and kind of like, so being in the head, it's hard. It's like trouble sleeping because you're always like, your mind's always running. Do you go, is that what, yeah. Do you have that too? Like, okay.
Yeah, I deal with, my inattentive often deals with anxiety, and my anxiety usually revolves around my children.
Okay.
And really, like, it's really hard. And you know this as a mom, right? As your children are young, we have a lot of thoughts in our head whenever we're dealing with really nasty coughs or whenever we're really worried about like SIDS and things of that nature. Sometimes we get those things wrapped up in our brains, and that's been my biggest one. But the other thing is, like, my social anxiety turns kind of grades everybody around me on like what kind of threat level are they to me and my family. And so I gauge like my brain goes into scenarios when I go out in public as to what should I do if that person tries to hurt me. I'm 6 foot and 300 pounds, and I should not be worrying about these things, but that's kind of how our brains work. And it's always been really interesting for me is the way our brains work, and which is what got me all into this.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that instead of saying like, oh, I got diagnosed, my son's diagnosed, I don't know, I'm just gonna go hide in the corner. You're like, let me figure this out. That's great. And then now you help so many people because you are figuring it out. And like I said, you helped me. Since you and I talked, we're going to talk about time management. You taught me this really cool thing. And we talked about time management before and different things, but I honestly like reflect now and go, oh, okay, that's why I did this. It makes so much sense. Now I can help to, when I'm about to do something that I used to do, I try to think like, oh, wait, let me process this, right? So I try to think it through before because I would just be like before I'm like, I want to cut my hair. I'm going to cut my hair. I have to cut my hair today. And then I cut it and I go, oh my gosh, I hate it. Like, why did I just go to this random person and get my hair cut off? And I didn't think it through. I didn't find a person that I knew was reputable. I didn't, I just like went to this place and just got my hair cut off. And then something bad happened. I'm like, okay. So you are really awesome. And I love how you talked about the difference with females and males, and how you also said that, anybody can have either, what do you call them? You said
presentations.
Presentations. So, or you can have both. So, sorry.
When did you start your creating order from chaos coaching business, and who did you help?
Creating order from chaos is actually an old business of mine. I developed the concept a long time ago because I became a project manager when I was 25, and I didn't fit into the normal business model of working, right? Working for people, I loved it. Working for bosses, couldn't stand it. And so what I started understanding about myself is I needed to have my freedom to be able to do the things that I enjoyed doing when I wanted to do them, because I was never going to be your working at a warehouse for 30 years or working at a specific job for a long time or anything like that, because I get bored. And so I had created this business that was just a project management business at first. Is creating order from chaos. That's just what I did. I walk into a place and I started thriving within the chaos. But my autistic side says, hey, we need structure here and here and here and here. And because I'm doing it for other people, I was really successful at it. But I kind of shifted into coaching because I got really sick in 2018. And when I got really sick, I developed fibromyalgia, and my body just wouldn't let me do a lot of things. And so in 2019, after my babies were born, I wanted to get back into working. And so I started working with an ADHD coach myself to kind of like, what am I going to do? Right? I have all these skills and all this stuff, but like, what does that mean? And ironically enough, I had learned a lot about leadership and public speaking because I wanted to be able to do presentations and things like that. And then she was just like, well, why don't you just get into coaching and consulting? And I was like, that's a great idea. I already have the business for it. Let me actually develop it into a business. And so 2019, Creating Order from Chaos was revamped and reborn as a coaching and consultation business. And so now I help people with ADHD. I work with businesses to develop your accommodation practices, educating them on ADHD, helping them identify their employees that have ADHD or autism and give them the resources that they need. And honestly, just really being there for people. And then that turned into working with and developing the men's ADHD support group with Mark Almodovar, and then creating my own ADHD parent support groups, and Dueling Minds, working with Michael Ruffin on ADHD support. And so now I have my fingers all into pies, and now I'm working for the International ADHD Conference, and I'm their marketing lead with Kate. So I'm very busy.
That's awesome.
I think I have the internal one because I'm always forgetting stuff and I'm always zoning out. And my teachers say that in class I fidget a lot and I tap my feet, and that I get good grades, but they say that I either turn my work in late because I forget, or I either turn it in too fast.
I did the same thing, actually. Ironically enough, it was either or, right? Either I just didn't turn it in, or they would give it to me and I'd be done in like 30 seconds. And like super frustrating for my teachers because they're like, what is going on? And I, of course, like, this is back in the 80s. Oh my God, I'm old.
No, you're not.
But they were like, hey, what's going on? Why are you struggling with this stuff? And ironically enough, we figured it out. I hated math, so I just didn't do the homework. Okay. I loved reading and science. Well, actually, I loved anything to do with reading. So, hey, cool. And because I'm hyperlexic. And so anything like that, I'm golden, right? I get done with this stuff as fast as possible. Unless they asked me to write reports, and my handwriting was just too rough. Very bad handwriting. Because I couldn't write as fast as I thought. And the other thing was fidgeting during class. I either got to fidget during class or I went to sleep. That was my two modes of operation. So I would roll into class, and if it was a class I really enjoyed, I would just fidget, but I would be there and everything like that. And actually, if y'all notice, I'm fidgeting right now. I'm using a fidget spinner, and I've got like multiple fidgets all over around me. Because when I'm talking to somebody on a podcast, I want to be able to pay attention to them. And can I get into science? This is going to get deep.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
So it's totally okay to zone out about what I'm going to say, because this is all sciencey shit or stuff. Sorry. Anyways, so our brains, everybody's brains, has two modes, call them, right? One is called the default mode network, and one is called the task management system. And what they are supposed to do is when you're supposed to be focusing on a thing, your task management system is on. It's going, laser focus. I'm focused, right? That's neurotypical people, because when that's on, neurotypical people, their default mode network is off. They're not really daydreaming or anything like that. But the thing is people with ADHD, they're both on at the same time. And so instead of having this laser focus, we have a shotgun blast of attention, and we see too many things, or we hear too many things, or we experience too many things, right? There's, and this is one of those reasons why ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is such a horrifyingly bad name. We don't have an attention deficit. We have too much attention. We see too many things, and our brains are overwhelmed trying to process it. I'm trying to process it. My Spotify is over here. There's a video over here. I'm watching. I've got another screen with our video on it over here. I've got this screen in front of me. I've got the fidget in my hand. I've got ties over here, and I don't know why I have ties over here. I see all this stuff, and it can be distracting. However, I distract my default mode network with a fidget. And that allows my task management system, my focus, to focus on the conversation. And that way I'm not all over the place. Your mom needs to get a fidget.
Yes, her mom does need to get a fidget, but at the hospital, while I'm talking to patients, it probably would be frowned upon. But here's
I've got something for you.
Okay, tell me, show me. What?
Fidget rings.
Okay,
you can get really nice ones that look like real rings, and like they have like a really rough fidget, and you can spin them, and they're magnetic, so you can get one or two of them, and you can have them, and you can sit here and be kind of clacking your fingers together. Also, in class, these are not very distracting. This is.
Yeah. I need every single thing that is fidgety, because I'm always distracted in class, and then I see everybody with those, and I'm like, whoa.
So I put 3 on my thing. I've got like 9 of these things, but they come in packs of 3s, and they're awesome. And they spin. They're magnetic, so they click clack. Not on my mind.
I love it.
And so
it's okay. So while you were saying that, of course, I'm thinking, so I will be giving discharge instructions, because I changed at work since we've spoken. I was a travel nurse, but now I work at a hospital. I was in the PACU recovery room for like a year and a half. And then I switched to discharge. And so because I started to feel very overwhelmed with a lot of things, and I said, there was so much trauma, and then I'm a trauma and life coach, and at work there was so much trauma. We're a Trauma One center, and I was like, I've got to kind of back up from that. So while I'm giving discharge instructions, I will be thinking a whole conversation, a whole thing, a whole what I didn't do, in my head, and then I think, oh no, what if I accidentally say those words out loud to the patient or the family instead of the instructor?
I'm so not in a nursing setting, but I've totally done that with my wife, where I was just having a conversation in my head, and she's talking about something completely different, and I just popped off and said the thing, and she's like, "What does that have anything to do with what I'm saying?" And I'm like, "It doesn't. Just a thought that was right there in the brain, and just didn't get to pause that thought at that point." And she was like, and ironically, she's like, "Well, did you hear anything I said?" "Oh yeah," and I repeat the words back to her verbatim.
Yes, exactly.
Our brains are weird. It's great.
That's like a superpower, though. It's pretty cool. Like I can hear 3. That's hard though, because then the people call me squirrel, because I will hear all the things. Like this happened. A doctor's talking to this person. This and this and this, and I can repeat the things from the different things. But I don't remember why I walked into the room. But I can repeat all of those things from the different situations. And why did I go in the room? Why am I in my calendar on my phone right now? Don't know why. But I've worked on it a lot, and I think that it's helpful because I do put a lot of stuff in the calendar and I have to put details because I would put a random thing in the calendar and go, what does that mean? Oh, like there's not enough reference there. So what are 3 tips that you can give to parents whose children are neurodivergent?
I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, meet your child where they are, right? First off, make sure you're working with a doctor and qualified therapists who understand ADHD and or autism, depending on whichever issue that your child is dealing with. And, really understand both the issues that they deal with, right? What to expect. Talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist, really get a grasp of signs and issues to expect whenever children are dealing with. So understanding that if you have a child has autism, they may have some social or behavioral issues that make it really complicated for them to deal with like people. Right. And whenever you're dealing with ADHD, understand that they're dealing with like impulsivity, hyperactivity of either interior or inattentive or hyperactive. Make sure that you are understanding what these things look like. Right. And then really develop that understanding as far as your child specifically is concerned, and empower the teachers with the knowledge that you have and hold them accountable for 504 IEP plans that you put in place to be able to give your child the support and care that they need at school too, because they spend half their time in schools. So if they're dealing with a home that's really supportive, but school is not, they'll start to hate school, and school will become a chore and a problem. And it's already a chore and a problem for children to start with, because we don't have recess, we're lacking art and a lot of different programs that really were helping the creativity of our children a long time ago. The other thing is get yourself evaluated for ADHD and or autism, because these are hereditary. And if you're dealing with a child with ADHD and you have ADHD, it's going to be really hard for you to manage their emotional dysregulation if they're constantly triggering your emotional dysregulation. And McKenna, you're a sweetheart, and I can totally tell this, but children are hard to parent when they have ADHD and or autism if the parents haven't taken time to do parent training. And if we have ADHD, it gets significantly harder because you'll say something, it'll trigger a response for me. I don't have the impulsivity triggered to stop, but I'm the adult. I still have to be the adult. So that means I need to be able to make sure I'm taking care of myself so that I can help you manage and work through your own issues as you're learning these things. Because a lot of parents get stuck in this mindset that my child should magically know how to do all the things around the house the way that I want them to do it. Right? I want them to go clean their room in a very specific way because I'm the adult and I know what's the best way. But did I teach my child how to do it? Same thing goes for emotional regulation. Did I teach my child how to manage their emotions? Have we worked with a therapist to work on these, managing these really powerful emotions. And the final thing is understanding that medication might be necessary. We know that medication really does help children and adults with ADHD, roughly in the realm of 75 to 80% really do benefit from it. And the thing that people need to understand, though, is that medication is not the whole solution. It's just a part of it. Medication does not teach skills. So medication doesn't teach a child how to manage their emotions. It gives them a tiny bit of control to stop the impulsive blast of emotions. But if they don't know how to recognize that tiny window of control that they can gain from the medication through therapy and emotional regulation skills and stuff like that, then they're still not going to be able to do the thing. They're still not going to be able to control the emotion if it's too big. And if they're going to school and they're struggling at school, and they get home and the medication is worn off, because medication does that after a while, then you have to recognize as a parent, hey, my child is super overwhelmed. What can I do to give them support? Hey, do you need some quiet time? Do you need to go outside and blow off some steam? Do you need to do these things? And give them that support that allows us to move forward and power into being able to be the support system that they need. I don't know how many tips and tricks that is, but I feel like I covered most of them.
Oh my gosh, you did. That's amazing. And I wish I had you to help me with my son and I didn't know that I had and again, I have not been, we're going to talk about adults getting diagnosed because where I am, it's very difficult because I tried. Anyways, but I haven't had a real diagnosis, but if you take the questionnaire or whatever, and I don't know, it's not from the MDS, but like if you take it and you ask me, do you have this, and this, I'm checking off 99%. Or if you say when you were a child, did you blah, 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 blah. But with him, and I did eventually have a lot of support. We had a case manager that came to the house. We had a counselor. We had a psychiatrist. He had occupational therapy that we went to. So I was a single mother of 2 boys. So when he played sports, the coaches became part of this, our whole thing. And so it's just like there was a lot that I had to do, but it was difficult for me because my oldest one was like learned very easily, was the opposite of my second son. My second son needed a lot more, but he would cry for homework. And so it was like expecting me to go have him pay attention when he already struggled with it, but then come home and do homework. I had to change things for him. And every week was different, I mean, every week a timeout would be good enough, and then it wasn't, so it's like discipline and trying to figure out like how he learns, and this, it's always different. But I had to give him breaks a lot. And so I do that with her. She's a very high achiever. She beats herself up. That's how I was. She wants to get it perfect. She's in band. When she's doing her assignment for the clarinet and she starts getting upset, don't shake your head. Do you don't want me to tell you that?
No, you can. I'm just saying, shaking my head at the situation.
So she'll get so upset, and I see myself in her, and I go, take a break right now. Take a break. Just take a break. Because she's just, and she gets so upset. That's a true story. It happened. So I have to tell her.
It's very hard, okay?
I didn't say it wasn't hard, but you need to take a break. It's getting you you're overstimulated at that time. And so when that happens, now I'm also a lot older now. But now I'm like, step away from it and take a break. You're overstimulated. You're not going to do a good job at this time. So that was a lot of amazing tips and tricks, and that's why I'm so excited that you're here, because you are like a wealth pool of knowledge, and we don't understand or know like so many people. Do you know a percentage of how many people, maybe just in America, are neurodivergent? Do they even know? Well, I mean, a lot of us aren't diagnosed. So what would you say?
When we look at the statistics, right? CDC throws out a lot of stuff out there, and they say anywhere from 9 to 11% of children have ADHD. Unfortunately, I think that number's probably way too low. This is anecdotal and it's not scientific in any shape, form, or fashion, but a lot of the people that I've talked to who are experts in the field throw the number that's probably about 20 to 25% of people are, some sort of neurodivergence, ADHD or autism, or both. And, I had one person say that in his practice, he was dealing with roughly 30 to 40% of the children that he dealt with had ADHD or autism. And he was just a general practitioner as a pediatrician. And, when we're looking at that kind of realm, we have to kind of start understanding that these are spectrum issues. And some people are going to deal with ADHD, they're going to deal with autism, and they have a really supportive home life and they have a really supportive school life, and they're very likely not to express a lot of presentations. Because while ADHD and autism have genetic and hereditary components, we also know that environmental issues, family issues, and trauma can make the situations and presentations worse.
Right.
And so when we take into consideration the people who have the support systems and things like that, and then they lose those support systems as they get to be an adult, and it seems like they develop ADHD and autism as an adult, what really happened was they went through life with the support that they had from school and parents and family, but when they got into college and the workplace, they started losing those supports. They lost that structure. And so that significant struggle and heightened amounts of stress and in some cases trauma, especially if they go to the military or EMTs or something along those lines, or nurses or doctors, especially our ER doctors. Hey, rock on. I appreciate y'all. Rock on from last night. But they develop these symptoms and they're like, why? And it's because they had the propensity, the genetics to have ADHD, but because they had support, they were able to make it through the world fairly easily. And then they get into the workplace, and it kind of compounds everything, and they start developing the symptoms really strongly. And that's a struggle, and it's rough, and it hurts, and it causes more issues. And we're like, what in the world happened? So when we're looking at the statistics, we have to understand socioeconomic factors and things like that, and recognize that a lot of people also learn early on to mask, to hide the symptoms, and not seem to appear like they're struggling and things like that, which is what I did.
Yeah, and I find that that's really common, and especially when like adults, like we're looking back and we're like, oh, I was masking all this time. I don't think I was very good at masking though, but but people just didn't know what, I don't know. But it's cool to look back now and I'm like, oh, okay, makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad again that I can, like, because my son presented way differently. But honestly, it makes me proud of myself because I feel like people don't understand. Also, like, I don't want to ask you this. It's very off the wall strange, and it might just be just me and my son. My son had a high. What'd you say? Sorry.
Go for it. I'm here for it.
So my son and I, he had a high threshold for pain. I mean, literally had a broken foot. I had no clue why. He was jumping up and down. He has autism and ADHD. And jumping up and down. I'm like, nothing's wrong with you. It's late at night. He did not like to go to sleep. I'm thinking he's making excuses. Take him to the hospital there all night. They do an x-ray. It's like 2 a.m. The kids have school the next day. I have work. I go to work and they say, oh, it's broken. And I'm like, what? But he was like, oh, jumping on the stretcher and all this stuff. And that was I love it. Hey, everybody, this is Danielle. I'm jumping up and down. But yeah, so that's what happened. And as a parent, I was thinking, you can't have something broken if you're jumping up and down, but he could, and he did. So with me, I have a high pain. Like I have, sometimes my back will be at a pain of a 10 and I'm still functioning at work. I'm still taking care of people. Now I sit like this, I do this. I'm trying to get, positioned better. I'm trying to help it in different ways. I might get an ice pack. I don't know. But is that something that's common or is it just him and I?
No, it's actually super common, especially for people who are on autism spectrum. Remember earlier I said that we see the world differently. We experience the world differently. That's because both ADHD and autism affect the reticular activating system, which is literally what processes the signals from all the various inputs of our bodies. So seeing, hearing, taste, feeling, all of those different things, including proprioception, which is our ability to balance. And we deal with these issues in really interesting ways. And a lot of children who are autistic and adults who are autistic have significantly higher pain tolerances because their bodies don't recognize pain signals in the same way that other people do. And I'm kind of on the same line. However, I am also a dude, so whenever I get sick, I'm dude sick, which is a miserable baby in the bed. And so, like I have those moments when it's like that, but like I also walk around with fibromyalgia and my pain levels are sitting at a 4 or 5 or 6, just sitting still. And I have to go through it and I have to deal with it. So I'm able to kind of just like shift my brain to a different area. And I don't know how to explain that to people except for other people who are autistic because they seem to get it. It's like my brain just went, boop, and the pain goes into a different corner. And nobody seems to get that. They're like, how are you walking if you're at a pain level at 6? And I'm like, I have to. I don't have a choice in the matter. Like I have to work. I have to do things. I have to be on the podcast. I have to, and that's really complicated to explain to people. But it is a legitimate phenomenon that we see a lot in a lot of neurodivergent people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that and clarifying that, because I don't know how to explain it either. Like I live at a 6 and people are like, how? I'm like, I have no clue. I don't know. Just keep going.
Ironically enough, we see the same thing in redheads and ginger people.
Yes, we have redhead patients after anesthesia. They need a lot more. Theirs is different though for us. In anesthesia, they need more pain medicine than So she has a headache. You can go ahead and step away, sweetheart. Go ahead.
Hey, no, it's totally cool, McKenna. It's fine.
McKenna, you can go ahead.
She's here for it.
Go ahead, sweetheart.
All
right, well then ask the question then.
What advice?
No, we already did that one.
What? No, we didn't.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, because then you asked this one. And then you asked the other
let's
question.
do this one.
But that's yours.
Just go ahead, sweetheart.
Oh, you are the operations director for the men's ADHD support group. Can you tell us more about the group?
Yeah, so the Men's ADHD Support Group is a group founded by Mark Almodovar, who is a phenomenal social media person who really had an idea to provide a space for men to be able to talk about things that they're struggling with, especially ADHD, especially around ADHD. But because ADHD affects us in so much of our lives, it's really just a safe space for men to go to get support from other men. And it's really valuable to have that because, we get that. And women need the same thing. Non-binary people need the same thing. They need to have support of people who get it. And that's one of the things that he wanted to provide. And so in 2019, he created the group. And then I came around in 2021 and 2022, and we connected with each other because I'm really wanting to get into the world and I'm wanting to give back to it. And I saw a space for me to be able to do that. And then in October of 2022, we created a nonprofit, and now we're working with businesses on neurodivergent support for men. We're working with different organizations like CHAD and ADA and ACO to provide men's support groups. We also do in-person support groups, and we're growing. And unfortunately, kind of in the political landscape we are in right now, we are having fun, but at the same time, we are doing things like working with Katie Osoris or Katie Osborne from TikTok. She's actually going to be doing a talk on the 18th, for the men's group about sex and ADHD. And so it's just it's been a roller coaster, but it's been a lot of fun. And I want to say we're close to 20,000 men in our Facebook group on there. And then it's just a lot of support and a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of just really people really being there for people. Even our trans men have a lot of support and love and care in there, mainly because we're ruthless assholes, ruthless buttheads whenever it comes to transphobia and stuff like that and homophobia. And we really come down hard on that because we're cultivating a environment where men can feel safe regardless of how they came about this issue and what they're dealing with and struggling with.
Well, that's awesome. So I think it's important, like you said, for any gender to have a space where they can just talk about, just like sometimes with women, men don't want to know about cycle stuff or whatever, so it's nice that men can have a group that they can just talk about stuff specifically for whatever they're going through. I think that's important. So I talked about earlier, you helped me with something with time management, but what advice would you give to adult entrepreneurs about time management and staying organized?
You have to find a system that works for you. And a lot of times you're going to need help finding that system. And I don't mean that because I'm trying to pitch my coaching services, but it's because all of the systems that people with ADHD have to put in place are 99% of the time going to be external systems. Because even with medication, our internal systems don't work the same way as the world does, right? And that's because we live in a world that's built around neurotypical mindsets. And so what we have to do is we have to find systems and processes and things like that work for us. Now, time management, it's one of those things where you have to sit here and have some sort of external system, calendars, timers, clocks, Alexa, Siri, whatever you want to use. You have to have some sort of system like that to kind of help you break up the day. And that's where things like the Pomodoro technique comes into play, right? Pomodoro technique is where you work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, you work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. That's 1 hour of work with 2 5-minute breaks. And the reason that you do that is because, say you're working on a project or a book report, and you're working, but your tablet goes off and you pick it up and you start scrolling through social media. You got distracted. Okay, you're going to get distracted. That happens because we have ADHD, right?
Yeah.
When the timer goes off for that 5-minute break and you realize you've been on social media for 15 minutes, well, you've only wasted 15 minutes instead of 2 hours. So now you reset, you take your 5-minute break, you reset and get back to what you're doing. And so in that hour of you working, you actually get 45 minutes of work done or 35 minutes of work done. And you didn't waste the entire hour not doing anything. You just did the things that you need to do. This is also where task lists come into play because you want to have a list of things that you can go down based on an importance scale that is external. That means asking the people who we are reporting to, when do you want this done? You want it done tomorrow? Cool. That makes it high priority for me. We don't have the natural inclination to be able to go, oh, this is super important, because for us, everything is important or nothing is important.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to stop trying to depend on our brains to do all of the work, because our brains are already doing a lot of work. Emotional management, memory, working, all of these different things that our brain is already trying to do. We have to take as much pressure off of our brain so that it can function and do the things it needs to do that when we need it to do. And that's why we have to externalize a lot of the tools that we need that neurotypical people honestly use every day themselves. We just don't learn how to use it the same way. And we have to learn it to use it our own way. So when you're looking at that, you have to build a system that works specifically for you, that takes into consideration your strengths, that takes into consideration your weaknesses, and takes into consideration the resources that you have. Because a lot of entrepreneurs sit here and think of people who talk about that they made their millions all by themselves. Well, we know that's bullcrap. That's not how it works. They've got an army of virtual assistants, personal assistants, managers, operations directors, stuff like that, who are supporting them so that they're able to focus on the things that they enjoy doing. And that's the final piece of this puzzle. You need to focus on the things that you enjoy doing, and you need to delegate the things that you don't enjoy doing to people who do enjoy doing that kind of stuff or are good at that kind of stuff. Right? I hate bookkeeping. I can't stand it. It's the worst thing in the world. So I hire people to do it. And so we have to take that into consideration as we're building our business. We can't do everything on our own. We have to find and focus on the things that we want to do, that we enjoy doing, that we have the strength to do, that does interest us, and then give the rest of the stuff to other people. Or find people who will body double with us to allow us to do the things that we don't really enjoy doing, but we have to get done.
Okay.
The final,
I was gonna ask. I know what that is, but can you explain what body doubling is?
Yeah, so body doubling is inviting people into your space with the expectation that they don't really have to talk to you. They don't really have to do anything. They're just in your space. And what we're doing there is we're activating a challenge system. This person expects me to do the things that I need to get done, so I'm going to do the thing. So use cleaning my house, for example. I know I need to clean the house. So I'll invite my friend over. Not because I want him to help me clean the house, but because that challenge of him coming over, the urgency of him coming over, is going to make me clean the house, because I don't want him coming over to a dirty ass house. And that kind of goes into activating, whenever you're doing the body doubling, you really start to find yourself, you can do it virtually as well. You can go to things like Focus 101 or Flow, or there's a bunch of them out there where you're virtually attached to a person. They're doing their thing, you're doing your thing, but because that expectation is there for y'all to be working and doing the things, it makes it easier, and it's activating the motivation system that people with ADHD have. Because we don't have an importance-based mindset, we have an interest-based mindset, and we follow INCUP, interesting, novel, challenging, urgency, passion. And that's how we motivate ourselves. It's following through that acronym.
Gosh, you are amazing. This has been such a filled, information filled. I don't know. Explain it. What I'm trying to say. You okay? Sorry, she has a headache. Everybody, do you want to ask this one, or do you want me to ask? Oh, I don't remember what's going on. If you can go back and just being honest, this is why my show is called Authentic Points of View, because you see how Danielle really is. I'm not putting on a front. I'm not acting like, oh, wow, I got it so together. I do have a lot more together than I used to a few years ago, but I'm a work in progress. Everybody is, right? So, all right. if you could go back, Shane, and ask your tell your 13-year-old self something, what would it be?
It's okay to be weird. It's okay to live a life that other people don't understand, right? Like, a lot of people are out there and like they want to fit in. They want to, be this person that they assume that the world wants them to be. And the problem is there is no such thing as normal. There's people who want to push a normal. There's people who want to push stereotypes and status quo, but we don't live in a world where that's an actual thing. Neurodivergence and neurodiversity teaches us that every brain is slightly different. And some people's brains are really different and they process the world differently. And if your brain does that, it doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're different, and that's okay. And it's okay to be different, right? It's okay to embrace that aspect of yourself. And if I could go back to myself and tell myself to do that, I would really sit down and just say, hey, just love life and accept who you are and be unapologetically that person that you want to be, not because other people want you to be that, not because your parents want you to be that, not because the society wants you to be that, but because you want to be those things. And have fun with it and enjoy it. And mistakes are okay. Mistakes are great. Mistakes and failures are awesome, and we need to understand that and teach our kids that. You should learn from your failures and mistakes, and it's okay to have those. And a lot of our parents and teachers are failing our children in that realm. Mistakes and failures are seen as horrifyingly bad things, and our children need to know that during the support time that they have until they get into the real world and get their own jobs and stuff like that, the consequences for failures and mistakes are significantly able to be managed with the support. And that's what parents should be doing, is teaching their children to learn from those failures and mistakes. And that's one of the things I wish my parents had done.
Me too. And I wasn't going to say this, but I'll say it. My second son that has the diagnosis of ODD, bipolar, autism, ADHD, all those diagnoses, he started getting in trouble. And it got to the point where it was very scary. I honestly thought he was going to end up dead or in jail for the rest of his life. He was going to jail, but it was juvenile. And I don't really talk about on this because this is for kids and adults, but maybe your kid is going through this. And I just want to give you some hope, because now I had him held accountable back then. So he would, if he was on probation, and I had to call and turn him in. And it hurt me so bad. But I did it because I wanted him to know that there's consequences. Right. And so now he is 21. He'll be 22 this year. And he's doing so great. Like, he's not gotten in trouble with the law since that time, years ago. And it was really hard for me, and I felt so bad, but I'm glad that I did it. And he said that he is so glad that he had that structure and stuff, because now he uses it as an adult. And so something that I thought, is this the right thing to do? Am I being cruel? What is, but I'm glad that I did give him the sense of, because in real life, as an adult, you don't get 500 chances, right? When you make a mistake, you're allowed to make a mistake. But when you do something so bad, you cannot take that back. So I just wanted him to learn that. So that's something that I did. And, but I'm glad that he now sees that the things that I taught him and things he went through are helping him in his life, and he reflects on it. So do you want to say, where can we find you?
Oh, well, it's where we can find it.
Oh, we put it on sorry, she already put it on. Where can we find you?
So as you can see across the screen, that's creating order from chaos.com. You can find me there. I'll also put the links in the comment section in the Facebook as well. And,
Sure, thank you.
But the Men's ADHD Support Group on Facebook, men'sadhdsupportgroup.org, the ADHD Parent Support Group private, private. And you can find me also on the big ADHD Parent Support Group, which is like 120,000 members. I'm the moderator there, and I run that one as well.
Gosh, I love it. So, and then dueling, what is your nonprofit?
Yeah, duelingminds.org is the ADHD support group that I run as well, or help run. Okay. I don't run it.
Awesome. And so if somebody doesn't know what ADHD means, and I know what it means.
Yeah, autism and ADHD dual diagnosis. Around 40 to 60% of people with ADHD or autism are going to have presentations of the other issue as a comorbidity.
Yes. So you're so awesome. Thank you for all the things that you have taught us. Thank you for being here last minute, especially from what you went through this morning. You always show up. You are just an awesome man, and I'm so glad to call you my friend and guest and all those things. Thank you again. And I just want to say really quick, because you kept talking about the genetics. When my son was little and people would say, hey, which one of his parents has ADHD? And I was like, I don't know. Nobody. Do you have autism? No, I wasn't diagnosed with that. Do you have this? And then so, yeah, when I look back, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get it, but that's okay. So thank you again. Sorry, McKenna is not feeling too spiffy today,
She's doing awesome. She's great.
Yes, thank you. She always does. Look at that face. What's that face about?
I love it.
So, and also I want to say too, with the what you told your younger self about being weird. I love that too, because I was always told that I am weird. That I am, and now I embrace it, and I'm like, I am unique as heck. I am myself, and I love being myself. I am very proud to be who I am, and McKenna sometimes will say she's weird. Weird is cool. Like I want her to be however she is. Go ahead.
We also have to remember that our jobs as parents are to embarrass our children. Like we are supposed to, like that's the thing we get to do. It's the fun thing about being a parent is we get to make all your friends go, what just happened? That's our job.
Yeah, I love it. She's still nice because she's 11, so she's okay with it. When the boys got older, because they're a lot older than her, and they would get to a point where they were like, I don't know that lady. Who is that lady?
I love you, sweetie. I did that to my son, and I thought he was going to murder me. It was great.
Oh, no. I said, when my kids would play sports, I'd go,
oh, yeah. I'm definitely that parent in the crowd. Introverted as heck until I get into the crowd. Then I'm good.
That's so funny. Well, thank you so much. Please, please, please follow Shane, because if you have a child with ADHD or autism, or you have it yourself, you might have it yourself, as he said several times. He's like literally a wealth of knowledge. He just told you how many groups and things he's in. Please, please, please reach out to him, because my life has changed and things have opened my eyes since I met him. So thank you so much, Shane, honestly, for being here. I always love speaking with you. You are fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
McKenna, it was a joy to meet you.
Thank you. It was great to meet you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. See you next week.
We forgot to talk about next week.
It's okay.